We were going through this example from China. So this woman, in fact, is happy about being watched 24 hours a day. So they are devising something called social credit. The government says that it will be fully operational by 2020, and it will allow the trustworthy to roam freely under heaven, while making it hard for the discredited to even make a single step. So which means I think it's going to evaluate people based on score. So this is quantification. Quantification is slightly dangerous. If our behaviors will have to be evaluated based on the score that you obtain, right? Which public algorithms are going to be used. So they say that each citizen has been assigned a score of out of 800, and some programs it is 900. Okay, so if you're getting the highest score, you'll get VIP treatment in hotels and restaurants, and probably you will get government jobs. Okay, so if you go to a shop and buy a napkin, then you'll be considered you're a very responsible person. If you buy cigarettes, you're not a responsible person. So maybe your score will go down. Maybe you'll not get a job in a college or university, right? For that matter. And China is pushing for this. So surveillance is at its peak. Cameras are going to be installed everywhere. Facial recognition, that we'll talk about it. I would like to show you a couple of videos with respect to that. China is also talking about body scanning, which we talked about, and I don't know whether that is accepted. Geo-tracking. So smartphones are also going to be used, and this credit scores will be, this credit scores will be obtained from different sectors. Health is one sector where this big data works. I think we need to discussing big data ethics. There are different types of data with respect to health. Now, of course, people have started recording all this data. So there's one kind of data, we call this biomedical data, which is called derivative data, which are data obtained, collected after some blood tests are done. So it's derived. Okay, so that's one kind of data. You do some tests, some diagnosis, whatever. So that's one kind of data. On the other hand, you have doctors. Now doctors take down. So even now, when you consult a doctor, they will write down, okay, suffering from chronic pain or this, that, etc. So that is data. That is descriptive data. So this is derivative biomedical data. That is descriptive biomedical data. Now these two data, so you have a lot of BPOs, right? Now BPOs have gone out. Okay, they've been phased out. Interestingly, because work from home and a lot of other modes of functioning are happening. So now these two types of data, derivative and descriptive, are converted into digital data. They are not actually digital data. I don't know, maybe these days in hospitals, I think they have started using computers. So a doctor has a computer where even medication he has to do it on the system. So they have developed some software for that, and that's how they go about doing it. Otherwise, sometime back, I think it is only on papers, and this is also given papers, so now they will convert it into digital data. Now, apart from this data, there is another interesting data, which is what is known as digitally born data. That is the data that when we search in media, or in, for that matter, Google search engines, for some information related to, some diseases or whatever. Now, that actually is generated, that's called digitally born data. It is born only in the digital space. It's not written on paper and then converted into digital data. So that's a digitally born data. Now that data is actually what companies want to exploit. This is okay. You can also connect it with, combine this with fitness data that we use apps. When you go for a walk, a jog, whatever. There are a lot of other data that we use, calories. You have even apps, you want to shed your weight around the midriff, there is, you want to have 6 packs or whatever, abs workout, you have an abs workout. I think there are plenty of, apps. So these are data, these are apps, which will collect information from us, and you don't need the intervention of a doctor or a hospital here. And this data are also being used by, so when I'm talking about medical record or medical data, I think you have a different, data that you can generate and companies generate. Okay, and when they want to say, for example, it's time you have to undergo a surgery, maybe you receive, or Apollo, there is a 20% discount, they know that, you consult Apollo maybe on a frequent basis for some kind of an illness, right? So they know, and they will say that, probably they will even specifically say, for this test, you can get some discount, etc. Now, to say that you need to undergo surgery or kind of compelling you, that is almost creating a norm, right? A norm is, you have to go through it, it's a normativity, right? But which is a normativity based on data. Now, that is something which we need to understand, which need not be a real normativity. If I go consult a doctor, the doctor would say, hey, no, not at all, alright? Okay, so probably if you're going to enter, certain data like, this is my diabetic, reading, it shows like this, and then immediately they would say, yeah, you go meet this doctor, consult this, etc. So they will work in this way. So this is marketing, and there's also discipline. So when as marketing is happening, there's also a sense of disciplining that is taking place, right? So now these data are being used, and there's a lot of research work that is going on, right? Based on this biomedical data. DST probably might be interested, and so there are a lot of departments in our university like biotechnology which want to work with companies. Now, the problem arises when the corporate and academia have to work together in some of the contexts. So in such a context, for example, if you have to submit a proposal where you say that we will take the data, find out if vitamin D has been a chronic illness in India, and whether this illness is more prevalent in urban areas or rural, whatever you want to say. Now, eventually, that is not going to result in increased spending on health sector by the government. Alright, so most of the time what happens is when the corporate and the academia work together, and this is what happened with Cambridge Analytica. A researcher from Cambridge Analytica, along with, he's also a researcher and a technician. Put together, they did something, and you know what happened. So that's Cambridge Analytica. So, I'm not saying that, I'm not generalizing anything, but this is what will happen. So what happens then, when you take such projects and come up with some findings, what are these findings going to be? These findings will be in favor of the industry. Otherwise, why would the corporate fund a research project? Alright? Which has to actually feed into pharmaceutical industries. And so the industry has to grow, thrive, sustain, survive, and maybe, make a new mark, saying that, of course, new developments, new innovations are required. But mostly, what is happening otherwise, data are going to be used, alright? The discourse that these findings will generate will be the discourses of the corporate, right? And that's where people say when it comes to looking at all these corporate philanthropy, like Melinda and Gates, we will also have a certain center to identify what is the disease, cancer, etc. Might look like healthy, they may be doing 40%, some good to the society, but on the other hand, what is happening? Corporate philanthropy causes decline in democracy, is what some of the authors are arguing. Primarily because it's not going to give space for common man to participate and engage in discourse. So each and everyone can generate discourse of his or her own. Now that discourse is not going to come through, because that will be decided by the research that, for example, the corporate and the academia will do or whatever. Alright? So it is going to be the discourse, the dominant discourse of the corporate only. Okay. So it's said that some of these, philanthropy organizations are set up primarily to evade taxes. On the other hand, how the corporate and state will work. So you take the case of US, corporate is spending a lot on politicians, Trump or Obama, everyone. So very difficult to monitor the corporate. Okay, so that's something to do with biomedical data and ethical policies, because as Haneef talks about discourse ethics. So when he says, I will only briefly explain what is discourse ethics. So he says rationality, and people should engage in producing discourses, right? So people should discuss, people should put their opinions forward and argue and have a longer discussion, and then arrive at maybe a consensus is what he says. But that is more ethical according to him. So is there a scope for this discourse ethics when when academia and the corporate are going to kind of do research? So that's the question some of the scholars raise. So ethics to do with big data, especially in the context of biomedical data, I think actually poses a lot of challenges. I'll come back to this. So I said she goes to the store and whatever things she's going to put into the trolley, she'll get a score, right? It may be a plus score or it may be a minus score. So if you're buying alcohol, she'll lose a couple of points. Buying a nappies, it's just responsibility, she'll gain a few points. Okay, so a score is updated in real time. When I read the term update, it's quite interesting. Update is something which is very pertinent to new media, right? And someone says good that hackers happened to new media, otherwise there is no updation. They're always on this continuously where you're when hackers are going to crash this software, so they have to update the software on a regular basis, and updation has become kind of habitual as far as the software companies are concerned. Otherwise they'll crash. They don't want people to get the crack version of the software or do something about it. Okay, so this only tells how algorithm is going to be used and what will happen in the long run. So she's very happy that her rewards are going high. She can rent a car very easily. And she says, I feel safe because there is camera everywhere. Right? I don't know how many of you would dive into that. If I say that there are cameras installed in this room and all that is being talked about and discussed will be sent to XYZ, right? I don't know. So I think every country is following, is actually thinking seriously about surveillance. So there's a lot actually this article discusses. So somebody who says something will become the arch rival enemy, right? So the score will go on. The problem lies with quantification, right? Because big data, they can only do this. They quantify everything. They have to quantify. Like what you are, that has to be quantified. It's the average that is calculated is nothing but quantification, right? It cannot discuss anything at a qualitative level. There is no room for that. And that is why somebody asked me then, what is the point? And it cannot actually take into account the context, but that is how data works. It cannot actually account for the context. Context, okay, people talk about context-specific technologies, etc. But I don't know if these technologies are really that context-specific. Yeah, there are some. For instance, like, if somebody has a pacemaker in him and he's getting closer to a staircase, he has phone which has some kind of a sensor. It can probably tell him, kind of alert him, oh, don't climb the stairs, right? So it's context-specific technology. But it cannot understand the context in which, say, I wanted to buy something. For example, a pair of shoes. What is the context in which I wanted to buy a pair of shoes? It will never take into account all the context. What it is, he wanted to buy a pair of shoes. Over, period, right? So that's where it begins. So that's how the data will be quantified. It is not actually, so it removes everything. So it's actually stripping the search of the context. So the moment it actually starts including the context, I think the kind of truth it will be able to produce is going to be different. Right now, the truth that it wants to produce is based on, the data. So I am actually, okay, I have two more people that I have to talk about. Okay, so here is someone like, there are some interesting books, that happen. So this person, okay, she's a data scientist. She worked in an IT company, worked as data scientist. And you know that today all companies, especially IT companies, want more of data scientists who can, do this analysis, right, using tools, and find out and predict patterns, etc. And she is a data scientist who, on one fine morning, realized that I am fooling the people, and so pulled her off the job, and she wrote this book called Weapons of Math Destruction. Okay, so we all know that weapons of mass destruction, and so she writes Weapons of Math Destruction. Probably, I don't know if she wants to indicate that nothing but full of lies, whatever. And she's a data scientist. Let's realize that, let's please keep it in mind that's not an academician, but a data science turned into an author. Her name is Kathy O'Neill, and she says, what is an algorithm? Algorithm in the first place is very secretive about its nature. You don't know what's happening. Okay. It's very opaque. Alright? So all that you do is you feed, and after that, I'll take care of what I have to do with your data. Right? So she says that it's very, very secretive, it's opaque, it's unregulated, it's not contestable, even when they are wrong. Algorithms can go wrong, but you don't call them as it's misfired. No, that's not the term used. It's a false positive. You have a true positive, you have a false positive. So you're not going to actually find fault with algorithms saying that it's misfired. And it's completely based on mathematical models. I would like to talk about that personally for a little while. And so she says she talks about many things, right? And one of which is the judiciary system. There was a time, when ProPublica, this is a news website, I don't know how many of you have heard about it. ProPublica published a news article wherein it said that found that it got some news that a black woman was arrested, and she was arrested because she found a cycle lying on the road, in the middle of the road. Some kid had left there. And before the kid could come back, I think she took it away, and she was arrested on charges of stealing the cycle. And there was another white man who was also arrested on the same day on charged with something else. And now the police system has developed a lot of software in the US. I don't know if it's going to happen in India. So they have developed a lot of software. One is called some Comcast, and another one is Predpol and things like that. So each and every city, corporation has its own software. Now, what does the software do? Once you have been arrested, after you're produced before the magistrate, and then before taking the person to the jail, they will ask the arrested lot to fill in a form. And say, for example, a black person goes and says, was your father also? Has your father served terms in jail? Something like that. Do you have a job on hand? So there are a lot of such questions asked, and these questions are stored. So something what you have to understand is all this data are stored in warehouses. So data warehouses, you have lots of warehouses, cloud or anything for that matter. All of them are stored. And next time when crime is committed, or even before crime is going to happen, they will map this data with these people, right? So maybe someone who is black might. So they found out that this black person was. After this filling this form, the police said that this black woman is twice likely to more crime than the white man, based on the data. Alright? This is not real. Okay? So which is not real as yet. Right? So ProPublica brought this up and filed. And following this, New York Municipal Corporation introduced a bill called Algorithm Accountability Bill. Right, so they have a bill, algorithm accountability bill. You can go read through it. I don't know to what extent it's implemented. But now what is happening with this policing system is something called predictive policing that is happening. What is this predictive policing? So based on, you're entering all kinds of data. So DNA, everything is entered. You're entering all kinds of data, crime rate data. So maybe in a particular city, the crime rate is high. In another city, the crime rate is not that high. So some of these details go into it. In certain streets, the part 1 or level 1 crime is high, like burglary, murder, rape. So these kinds of crimes are more likely to happen. So it's all based on the data that they have already collected. So it's there with them. All right, and then you also have other kinds of crimes, which is like low-level offenses, right? Which could be small stealing or selling drugs or picking a fight or whatever. Now, how does this predictive policing work? Now, what people are doing, police, they always, keep a vigil on this. Okay, this time of the month, this time of the year, I think, there is likely to be more crimes in this particular place, on this particular street, etc. And they go there. So more police are posted, and then they try to, they say that we can, reduce the crime rate, whatever. Now, what happens? Algorithms do not know the context, I said. Now, the moment you combine this part one, this high-level crimes with low-level, offenses, it gets confused. All right, it gets confused. Now, let's say that, for the sake of argument, this high-level, offenses are, compared to, this low-level, crimes. And if these low-level crimes are high, and if both the data are combined, then it might show that on this street it's actually not going to, I don't know if it's going to tell this kind of crime will happen here. It's not going to segregation will not happen based on context. It will only show that crime rate will such crimes are likely to be committed here. Now what happens? Police are posted in a particular place, but these are places where only low level crimes are happening. And what happens? You arrest people because people are selling drugs, people are doing other offenses, and then you come back and say we have arrested so many, and crime rate is going down because we are able to keep a vigil on this. But the rarest crimes, like high level crimes, those places people may not be police may not be able to go there. So now what happens? This results in a new kind of policing now. What is the new kind of policing? Policing in this particular place where only level 2 crimes are taking place. So new level of predictive policing is going to happen. Low level offenses. And interestingly, that's going to be and then you arrest all these people. You put prisoners, put them behind bars in jails, right? Somebody says prisons should be filled up. It's like airlines, otherwise there's no profit. So prisons and airlines are compared, okay? So, and they fill in enough, so you say that, okay, crime rate is going down, and you can probably predict, something else, which is not actually, true, right? Which is not actually true. Now, as another side, in the US, they have developed something called data-driven justice. Now, what they are doing in this, they are collecting data about high-level offenses and low-level offenses. Now, collecting information data about these people who are committing low-level offenses, they're saying that don't put them behind the prison bars. That's interesting. This one is interesting. Instead, try to find out, so trying to collect more context as far as this particular data is concerned. Once again, is it because they're very poor, right? Or is it, and you collect behavioral data, you collect poverty and income-related data about the same people. You collect what else? Health-related data about them, and now combine all of them. And instead of putting these low-level offenders behind the prisons, let's what do you call that? Give them some, maybe they can be sent to hospitals. Maybe they can be sent to psychiatrists, or maybe they can be sent to some schools if they have any, whatever. So that's data-driven justice that the US is talking about. I don't know to what extent is this successful, but otherwise this predictive policing can be really dangerous. Especially they say that data about it's not confirmed, but data about black people, whatever DNA that are samples that are collected, they are not removed from the database. Only they stay. Those digital traces will continue to remain there, and that makes it easy for next time when a crime is committed, okay, must be this person, right? So that is also the danger that she's talking about. This is another interesting book called The Black Box Society. Now we're talking about network society, information society, and all that. This person talks about the black box society. What is black box? Only the input, only the output. What happens in between, we don't know. It's like you see a prisoner going into a prison. You only know when he comes out. What happens inside? Otherwise, okay, you have some context, you wouldn't know. Algorithms are like that. You feed. it throws out something. What happens in between, we don't know. So actually we continue to live in a kind of a black box in a society. Saying this, both of them, both Frank Pascal and this Cathy O'Neill, they asked a very interesting question. Cathy O'Neill in fact asked a very interesting question. We are arresting people who are committing low-level crimes. What about finance? She says finance is unpoliced. Finance, there are a lot of things. If you are going to apply the same parameters, same metric, I think you can arrest a lot of people who are committing low-level offences. Maybe there's a best way to regulate finance. And that's her argument. Because finance is the most unpoliced sector. I mean, finance in the sense you can say banks, you can, all stock markets, blowing out of proportions, the indices, etc. So they do a lot of stuff, right? So she is very careful because she has also handled finance data, and she says that these are the people who must be policed. So you can think, I think, can apply that to Indian context also. That I will show you later. This is a person who I am reading, and very interesting. Her name is Antoinette Roodrooy. She is a Belgian scholar. She is combining law and philosophy, and she's working on something called algorithmic governmentality. Now, governmentality is Foucault's concept. Biopolitics and governmentality, these are Michel Foucault's concepts. So he talks about biopolitics. What is biopolitics? Just 2 lines, not in detail. So he says biopolitics is like how the state or the powers be the corporate today, especially the state, will try to have control not over individuals but the entire population, right? So it's not that they want an individual to regulate his or her conduct. No. As far as biopolitics is concerned, it is the entire population. So the state probably would strive to regulate the conduct of the conduct, they say he calls the conduct of the conduct, right? So how they conduct themselves, so disciplining, so that's biopolitics, and that's how it works. Governmentality is also, something like that, right? Where you are regulating, you are disciplining the subjects, citizens, and having subjects adhere to the standards that you dictate, fall in line, right? It could be using coercion, you could use force, or you could use persuasion, right? You could use one of these techniques, but eventually the idea is, to make them, fall in line. So Althusser also talks about, the subject and interpellation, all that stuff. Now, governmentality is also something like that, okay? So, how does this work when it comes to algorithms? Now, we're talking about 2 kinds of politics. One is hard biopolitics, and the other one is soft biopolitics. Now, hard biopolitics is one which is highly social. So, I can try to regulate your behavior at a social level. But soft biopolitics is one which is techno-social. It's not merely social, it is techno-social. So even at the technical level, data would strive to regulate and discipline you. Right? So that is what algorithms are trying to do. So they sort of regulate the conduct of individuals. So she's talking about algorithmic governmentality, right? How algorithms can regulate your behavior. But the difference between the governmentality that Foucault talks about and this one is that power is grasped not through subjects or the population, right? So the traditional biopolitics is one where power is grasped, by disciplining, the real subjects. So there is something called subjectivity. I said there is something called reflexivity and all of that. But when it comes to algorithmic governmentality, I think power is grasped only through the data. So where is the data? The data is in the data warehouse, we can say, right? It remains completely removed from the social phenomena. Right? It's not about the lived experience. It's not about the social phenomena. Of course, I think it's not technologically scripted out of nowhere. Algorithms are not kind of scripting truth out of nowhere. Because you feed data, But with the data that you feel, it starts working, quite autonomously, sort of, spontaneously at a, different, level. So it's not technologically scripted. Of course, we do give, a lot of, data and for algorithms to do certain things, autonomously, right? So there's a different world then. So it's a different world in and of itself. The data world is in and of itself a different world. Okay. So algorithm, I think it's calculating a lot of stuff. So I said, in the beginning, it is actually mathematically, statistically calculating. When you want to search for a Santa Claus image, probably it might show up in all probability white Santa Claus image, right? Because on an average, maybe that's what is normally searched for. That's a pattern you probably might be having. But how does the average change? Probably when you're going to add, for example, a black Santa Claus, right? A Santa Claus who is thin, women Santa Claus, etc. So that with the moment you add more of these, data, then actually the average is, going to change. So what Antonio Rural wants to establish is that the world of data is a data in and of itself. And everything is there, right? So after some time, it's not going to actually, it doesn't have a self-referential point to the social phenomena. So everything is there inside the data. And this is what even Nigel Thrift yesterday was talking about, the cultural geographer calls this process, what technology does, as worldling. He calls this, the world and worldling, and it is actually making sense of the data in completely unpredictable ways and unprecedented ways, right? So the truth, it constructs the regime of truth, as Foucault says. The regime of truth that the data are constructing is from the data world itself. All right, we have fed, but after that, everything is there out in this, in this, data space. And the regime of truth that is constructed is from this world only. It doesn't. It's not going to link, with the social phenomena. That's why it is completely. We keep telling the fact that lived experiences. Gone. For the same reason, when you want to understand identity or algorithmic self or algorithmic identity, I don't know. Maybe. You need a different approach, probably, I don't know if it's a post-human approach, okay, to understand identity in that context. Or else we were discussing how a certain person is profiled, how a certain person is categorized. So I was talking about the researcher. How is it categorizing or profiling a person? So it's creating a certain self. But it is a self which is removed from subjectivity. Because that particular self as a woman or an old man researcher, that's the profiling or identity that is conferred upon that person, is created from nowhere but from the data. Right? So, when doing this, collecting every information from the data, probably using statistical references, it's objective. It's using all statistical models, etc. And within the data world, probably it is objective, right? Because it's calculating the average, and so it is objective. And this objectivity happens because subjectivity does not exist, right? So that's what she's arguing. It's objective. Objective, especially when there are no interventions. The subject, this reflexivity is not there, context is not there, and so you say it's objective. But it actually is objective because there is no subjectivity, right? Subjectivity is stripped off this particular context. So this is a very interesting argument that she makes. So if you find time, I think she also goes on to say that it produces a certain norm, as I told you, and that normativity is kind of repeated again and again. This is what it is like. So eventually at some point in time we may probably buy that normativity and would like to fit into that normativity. So someone who is my colleague, who was against all this technology, all of a sudden, so what is it, technology fetishism, he started using all these apps, and then today he's very obsessed with these apps, and then he starts calculating, and every now and then you would say how many steps he has covered in a day, and so this is so probably you buying, I don't know if you call this spectacle, but right, that is what we buy ourselves into. But it's data. So I think data starts dictating the norm, and it keeps on building this normativity. Okay. To end, I will just show you what Joy Bolongini is doing. It's a small effort from her side. She's a researcher in MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. So she's researching on facial recognition, and she says, there is a bias in coding, and she talks about, she has in fact a website called Algorithmic Justice League.
I have a confession. Sometimes, with no one in sight, I code in a white mask. As I make whimsical systems to paint walls with our smiles or project inspirations on faces, I enjoy using code to make my ideas a reality. Computer vision powers my creations, making it possible for machines to detect faces. But at times, I'm invisible. You see, machines view the world through a coded gaze. They digest pixels from a camera in dictated ways. Using machine learning, we create training sets with examples that help the machines detect new faces. A lack of diversity in these training sets leads to limited systems that can struggle with faces like mine. To save time, code libraries for facial recognition are shared like off-the-shelf parts. Many computer vision projects share the same code. Any bias in the system propagates widely and implants a coded gaze. The coded gaze reflects the views of whoever creates the systems. All of our work reflects both our aspirations and our limitations. Can we do better? Yes. We can begin by intentionally creating inclusive code. I call this encoding. Encoding is a mindset that asks, who's listening? Detecting the invisible is easier when you have full spectrum teams equipped with different light filters. Who codes matters. Encoding is a process that explicitly checks the impact of bias during the design, development, and deployment of coded systems. How we code matters. Encoding is a personal mission and an invitation to create a world with a culture of inclusion. A world where technology works for all of us and centers social change. No more masks.
Okay, so she's talking about coded gaze, and she's doing research on facial recognition, trying to understand. So it's in this context I opened the talk saying that, so should some of us also learn how to do coding, because there's a cultural diversity that is required even in coding industry. I don't know, so maybe coding should also become part of communication curriculum. I'm not too sure. I don't want to push that too far. But then, even then, so that is one level. But at another level, eventually, I think you have too few players, like Google, and there are few search engines. So that monopoly, I think we cannot break into. So that is always going to remain. That's a challenge. And as far as identity is concerned, I think algorithmic identity is something. We're not going to have an organic singular identity, because as data bodies, as Arjun Apatare says, we create curatorial notions. So something like that, we create curatorial subjectivities. So it's like he even goes on to say that you take a person and chop it into all these characteristics. So you put that person's characteristics, the entire organic, all of these characteristics into a blender, into mixing, and then what does it do? Chops, and so then you become parts. So these are parts that we are going to deal with, and that's what Deleuze calls individuals. A gender could be a individual, just that, right? So maybe my gender is like so let's say male, female, political leaning. I like coffee. I like to read this book. So there are a lot of these criteria and characteristics which together constitute what is known as the organic identity, the meaning. But when it comes to data bodies and the way algorithms function, they're not going to take into account all of this. They will take one or two. So maybe gender, income, place from where you come from, and connect it, sell it to the insurance industry. So they will target individual advertisements, we call it, right? But it's basically not individual advertisements. It's only hyper segmentation of markets, right? It's not individual. So I think yesterday Professor Haneef must have given this example about airfare rates going up. It's not individual targeting. It's more of like hyper segmentation. So you go to a particular website, check out the fares, and go to another website to see if the fare could be reasonable there, but it's not so, and you come back and you have gone up by another 2,000 or 1,000, whatever it is, right? So that's the way it actually pushes you into buying. So identity, I think it has to be understood in a individual form. So that's what Deleuze says, and this can be understood better. If you're reading Deleuze's postscript on controlled society, that's an article. And so privacy also has to be understood in different terms, and I think Professor is here and he will deal with that. So with that I conclude, and thanks for patient listening.